IndusGuru is pleased to officially launch the Beyond Work initiative, and I would like to invite Sandeep Malkani, our co-founder and director, to speak a few words to introduce the same.
Hi everyone. I'm delighted to welcome all of you to this session that marks another milestone on our growth journey. We formed this network 6 years ago, dedicated to bringing value to the work and lives of our senior independent professionals. Today, our network is 1,000 plus experts strong. Our core focus has been to bring work and project opportunities to your table. Earlier this year, we did a survey to hear your feedback on what else could be valuable to you as a professional freelancer. Based on this, I am happy to announce that we are launching this new initiative, Beyond Work. With Beyond Work, we are looking to bring together upskilling and professional networking opportunities to the network. We have tied up with multiple partners to bring relevant programs to you. We will be having a professional networking or expert session every month, many virtual and some in-person physical events. Over the last few months, we have planned a series of expert sessions on themes we feel are most relevant to our network: ESG, digital innovations, making business transformations work, and working with the social development sector. We hope that you will find these programs rewarding, and we look forward to getting more feedback and active engagement on our platform.
This session is structured as a fireside chat on the topic Entrepreneurial Opportunities to Help SMEs Grow, moderated by our very own co-founder and director, Deepak Malkani. Deepak joined us in IndusGuru last year after a career spanning 27 plus years in management consulting, leading and growing diverse consulting practices in Accenture and PwC. He is also our go-to person for day-to-day firefighting and developing a deep understanding of the projects at hand. With him, we have two accomplished leaders, Mr. Sandeep Jain. Sandeep is a seasoned FMCG industry veteran and has held various finance and business leadership roles across Asia Pacific in Perfetti Vanmel. Sandeep set up Value Unlocked in 2017. Value Unlocked is primarily engaged in the domains of leadership coaching, facilitation, and execution-focused strategy consulting, and works with both large organizations and entrepreneur-managed businesses. He is also very active in the startup ecosystem as an investor, advisor, and mentor. Sandeep is a chartered accountant by qualification, a certified coach, and holds certifications in digital marketing, digital transformation, innovation, and design thinking. Sandeep has been an IndusGuru expert for a few years now, and also recently joined as a regional director with the Alpha Group for Delhi NCR. Welcome, Sandeep.
Thank you, Pat.
We also have Mr. Colin Lindsey. After a successful career of 15 years in the British Army, serving in some of the hot spots in the world, Colin carved a career in the hospitality industry, which culminated in his becoming the CEO of some of the top hotels in Copenhagen, Denmark. On return to UK, Colin started a recruitment and headhunting business, which he cashed out after a successful stint of 10 years in 2012. Since then, he has been a business coach, supporting senior executives and business owners to open the perspectives to success, and for 6 years now has been leading Noble Manhattan's peer-to-peer executive board division, the Alpha Group. Without further ado, I welcome Deepak to please take over and start the session.
Let me start off with a bit of a personal experience and story over the last year. We were approached by a set of very different companies. A leading manufacturer and leader of playing cards, a manufacturer of home decorative laminates, a customs clearing logistics company, an IT services mid-market company. And all of them approached us for something very similar. You might ask, what's common to these, apart from them being IndusGuru clients? Remarkably, of course, all of these are examples of the very critical SME sector, which we are going to talk about today. But more importantly, all of them are run by first or second generation entrepreneurs. And thirdly, while being challenged by the pandemic and these disruptions before, during, and after, they all came to us with broadly a similar agenda. How do they scale and grow amidst uncertainty? And that's something that sparked off our belief that there is value in a session like this for our network of independent experts. So unlike large corporates, which many of us are used to working in, which are large ships which sail the oceans and are not really bothered by storms, the SME sector, the small and medium businesses, are small crafts. They're still ocean going, so they depend on the wind being in their sails. Yet any small wave can become a tsunami to them. So as a platform for engaging with companies of all types, including SMEs, we thought this is a really critical agenda to address ourselves too. We know the unique challenges such SMEs face. Most important among them, we believe, is really access to quality talent and advice. And we have no one better than the two eminent professionals who are with us today to share some of their perspectives, both from a local and global view.
When I stepped into consulting coaching about 5 years ago, it was my go-to clients were really the large corporates. That's the kind of organizations one was familiar with. That's where one had worked. And that's where one wanted to pitch for work. And that's what I did. And for the first couple of years of my, independent consulting career, it was basically working with large corporates. Eventually, coaching is the route I took actually to find space in the SME sector, because some of the first generation entrepreneurs, they wanted, coaching insights. So they took me as a business coach to help them kind of take their business to the next level. And as I engaged with them, I realized that while my coaching discussions could help them think through their challenges, but they also needed support to draw out their strategy and then to execute their strategy. And also what happens is with SMEs, they are typically companies which even I think sometimes are willing to spend on doing strategy roadmaps because they can once in a while afford the big consultants, let's say, to do strategy roadmap. But for them, the hurdle is that how do they get to implement that strategy? And that is where they are looking at support, and they can't take that from the big consulting companies because it's very expensive. So what I have done, and that's the space I've created for myself, is I've tweaked my offerings in a way that I come on board as somebody who helps these SMEs implement their strategy. I leverage their own teams. I build collective consensus and ownership of the strategy and help them actually with implementation of strategy. Actually, it's strange that SME collectively, the size that it contributes to the economy, any economy, we don't hear about it as often as the big success stories because there are not so many individual success stories of large measure to talk about. But the fact remains, SME for any country, and more so for a country like India, is a huge contributor to economy. You look at the statistics, 30% of our manufacturing output is actually contributed by SMEs. There are almost 500,000 SME businesses, and these are the ones which are registered in the government on the government platforms. I'm sure there would be so many more. They employ about 100 million people, let's say. Almost 50% of our exports is from the SME sector. So look at it, they are contributing almost 1/3 to our GDP. So it's huge. Yeah, so I think on the similarities, I suppose all of us need to get our skill sets and mindset as a consultant into play when we step out on our own. Specifically on the skill sets, I think, which distinguish what you need for a large corporate versus an SME. I see actually 3 or 4 specific areas of differences. One is on the skills. When you work with, at least I've observed when I work with large corporates, they need specific domain skills, functional skills, deep knowledge of a specific thing, and you would basically get to work on that. When you work with SMEs, they expect you to bring a much diverse knowledge. They expect you to know a little about everything. And I think that is required because, and that brings me to the second point, that the kind of people you interact with. In large corporates, people are really competent people. They've been there, they know what it is, they would take all the initiative. You are just there working on your part of the job. In SME space, you are the one who's actually expected to take the initiative. You are the one who's expected to get things going. A lot of times you have to counsel, cajole, the juniors, for example, who reported to the entrepreneur, let's say, and carry them along. So I think you need a very different kind of, I would say, people skill, and you also interact with different kind of people in the SME space. The other, I think, is the fees. The large corporates are willing to pay you a per hour cost or whatever. The SMEs won't do that, actually. So you have to work out your model, which will commensurate with the value that you deliver. I have managed to do this in a way that I work on a fixed plus variable. So my fixed is very low, and variable is based a little bit on what I deliver in terms of outcome. That obviously needs a lot of baselining work just to have clarity. But I suppose that's a model which can work for a lot of SMEs. If you deliver value, they don't mind giving you even a disproportionately larger pie of that value, let's say. I think I come to the fact that, when you're working with entrepreneurs, you are more than a consultant. You are a confidant. You need to have those relationships in place. You need to enjoy that trust. And you need to be, they need to see you as somebody giving them objective and fair advice. So I think relationships at the top certainly matter so much more.
You've now, of course, taken on the mantle of the regional director for the Alpha Group in India. And be helpful for our audience, of course, all of them independent professionals also working in the sector, to understand a little bit more about what drove your choice. And it'll be great if you can also share with us, how is that approach different or unique or more scalable, if at all, as compared to traditional one-on-one consulting or coaching?
The way the proposition which Alpha Group comes with, and the way they add value to the entrepreneurs and to the consultants like us, is that this is a kind of a forum wherein you put together anywhere up to 20 business owners together in the form of a board. Is that they've put a strong methodology behind this. So they have their tools and frameworks through which you engage these business owners. When you are in these board meetings, each of them is actually focused on their own business, but through a certain methodology, which means that, they may be focusing, for example, the value proposition that they want to create, or the value proposition that they want to sharpen, the kind of marketing inputs that they want to build in their business. So they have kind of specifically designed workbooks, and you get the business owners to work on those on their businesses. The good thing is that each of these sessions basically end with these people, all the business owners, thinking about what are the 2 or 3 things that they are going to go back and do as far as the business is concerned. A lot of times the business owners see the opportunity in front of them, but they want their ideas to be validated. They don't know who to go out for, support or advice. They don't want to pay consultants for it. They don't know who else can give them an objective advice on whether they should implement or not. And if they get an advice, then they don't know when to get started and how to get started. And I think that's where, the group of people who work together, come together, stay together, that's how really they start adding value to each other over a period of time.
Great if you can focus on some real impact stories, which the Alpha Group has been able to facilitate for some organizations.
Sure. He's been with us for 7 years now, and about 3 years ago, just before the pandemic, he came to his board, and it's one of the boards that I was attending, hence the reason I know the story and the insight. And he said, and he worked in the solar paneling business, putting solar panels on domestic homes and creating power. Reasonably good business, doing around about 3.5 million revenue per annum. He had this challenge. He wanted to grow his business by acquisition, had identified a potential seller, and had gone through a lot of the process in terms of ensuring that it was the right thing for him. But he just wanted to just run the decision by his board before he actually took the decision and signed the check. A bit more due diligence, I guess one could call that. And he presented this to his board, what he was looking to gain out of it, what he wanted, why he was looking to grow by this particular method, what was in it for him, etc., etc. And we have a methodology to be able to extract that information out of a potential member or particular member. And at the end of the questioning, the members then came up with their perspective, their thoughts, their ideas behind his story. And every man and woman in the room said, "You are crazy. Do not buy the company." Now, the company was up for sale for $3.5 million. So not a small investment. And every one of them said, "Do not buy the company." And let us qualify that. So firstly, you don't need their manufacturing plant. You have your own, which is of high technology and is suitable for your growth. You don't need their maintenance contracts. You don't need their installation teams. You pretty much don't need anything that they tangibly have to sell you. You already have that in place. It says what you do want is the database of customers. Now, this business had been established for a long time, had a huge database of customers and potential customers. And it came out that that was really what he was looking to buy. So they all said, put an offer in to buy the database, the customer base, which in turn he did. It cost him $400,000 pounds to buy that, but he saved £3.1 million. Now, the reason I share this story is it puts into context that when you get so far into a challenge or a problem, or an acquisition in this case, you can't actually see the reality. You're so involved in the process, and unless you have that opportunity to test it, to share it, to just rethink it before you make that critical business decision, then you make wrongful decisions that cost you both time, and in this case, it would have been money. He's now been a member for 7 years. He'll never leave us because the advice and guidance he gets from his group is always going to be there. Talk about the workbooks, the strategic workbooks, and I know that Sandeep would have explained how they work in brief. I often get asked, well, how are they created? How do they work? And what is the value of them? Well, let me just share this story with you of how they were created. We were approached about 9 years ago, just before the Alpha Group actually started, by a small company that some of you may well have heard of, called Renault Car Manufacturing. Yeah, based in the UK. It's a French car product, but based in the UK. And at the time, they only had 3% of the market share in the United Kingdom. So they were struggling. That's not good. Yeah. And they approached us and said, we need something to help the dealerships, the dealership directors to grow and to create a bigger market share within the United Kingdom. We only have two choices. Either we resolve the problem or we pull out of the UK. Yeah. So we created the workbooks and we worked with the dealerships around the UK, many of them, over 200 of them. And over a period of 3 years, we increased their market share. Now, I'm going to share these numbers with you because it's impressive. We moved the market share from 3% to 9.2%. Now, I don't know if you know the kind of money that is made in the car industry, but that is billions of pounds of increased revenue and market share. All come out of what we did with the strategic workbooks that we worked with these dealership directors with.
Pertinent is really how long is this process of training to become a member of the Alpha?
Firstly, we train you within the nature of your life, as I mentioned there, and the actual training is over a period of 10 weeks. Now, the training is broken down into two parts. Part one is what I would call a classroom environment, which is done on Zoom, where we take you through the whole process. So who we are, why we exist, the route to market, how to profile members, how to identify members, what is the content, how do we deliver, etc., etc. So the whole business model we will share with you, train with you over the first 8 half days that we work with you. We then move into part two of the training, which is over a period of 8 weeks. This is on a training platform and is broken down into individual weeks. So in week one, there'll be certain activities that you would expect to be done. There's further learnings, further training, resources, guidance, etc. in each of those weeks. In each of those 8 weeks, there's also an accountability call where we invite you in to attend a call with both myself and Gerard O'Donovan, the CEO, where we want to stay in contact with you. So we ask questions like, what activities have you done this week? What's gone well for you this week? And maybe what hasn't gone quite so well, where we can identify where you need some further help and support. Okay. And I think that's the important part of the call, is where we can stay connected so that we can help and support you in any of the areas that you're struggling with. Okay. Now, we've created the 8 weeks so that at the end of those 8 weeks, you launch your very first board. And that is the idea behind the 8-week training. So it's almost like a spiral learning that takes you to that point where at the end of the 8 weeks, you launch your first board. So that's kind of the in-depth training and support that you would get. I hope that answers that part of the question. To be done, there's further learnings, further training, resources, guidance, etc. in each of those weeks. In each of those 8 weeks, there's also an accountability call where we invite you in to attend a call with both myself and Gerard O'Donovan, the CEO, where we want to stay in contact with you. So we ask questions like, what activities have you done this week? What's gone well for you this week? And maybe what hasn't gone quite so well, where we can identify where you need some further help and support. Okay. And I think that's the important part of the call, is where we can stay connected so that we can help and support you in any of the areas that you're struggling with. Okay. Now, we've created the 8 weeks so that at the end of those 8 weeks, you launch your very first board. And that is the idea behind the 8-week training. So it's almost like a spiral learning that takes you to that point where at the end of the 8 weeks, you launch your first board. So that's kind of the in-depth training and support that you would get. I hope that answers that part of the question. The normal investment for the Alpha Group, and this is the same all over the world, we are not specific in any country, is £5,000. Okay. However, when we do go into a new country, and obviously India is a new country, a new marketplace for us, we look at it strategically because we want to create that footprint, which I mentioned earlier. So the current investment to become a regional director with us is £2,250. But it won't be staying at that level forever. At some stage, we will start to then increase it back up to that £5,000, which is our standard investment for it. But currently, it's £2,250.
Requirements as such. But one thing which is key, and I would say really two. First is, I think Colin looks for people who have the ability to hold the board together. You are in that room with the room full of business owners. Can you hold your own in that room? Can you conduct a good meeting? Can you hold the people accountable? Can you be on time? Because these sessions can otherwise go on forever. I think that's certainly an ability. And you can get that ability either by yourself having been in executive leadership roles or having been a facilitator or a coach. I think all that equip you to deal with this. That's one piece. The second piece, I think Colin has also been very particular, and he's been very vocal about this when he has the first calls, interactions, etc. That this could be a side hustle, but it becomes a side hustle only after you formed your board. Until you form the board, there is a certain degree of effort required for the trainings and also to go out and start recruiting people or members or business owners. So I think those are the two distinct things. And I will still leave it to Colin if there's any other thing that he would like to add to this.
Sure. Thank you, Sandeep. And absolutely, those two things are critical in the development of a board. But I also look at the person as well. And there's certain things and traits that I look for in people. And one of those is passion. You've got to have that passion within you to want to go and help SMEs, MSMEs, whichever you want to call them, to grow, to develop, to scale their business. That's got to be an internal feeling that you want to exploit, that you want to go with a purpose and help these business owners to grow using the methodology, obviously, of the Alpha Group. And the other one is drive. You've got to have that drive because as an entrepreneur, as a dispersed workforce, which the Alpha Group is, I cannot come and knock on your door every Monday morning and say, you got to go to work. You got to go and talk to some people. So you've got to have that desire to drive and build your board, because without the board, you can't deliver the concept. So you've got to get out there and actually put a bit of effort.
Recap, if there's further interest in any of these topics that we talked about, particularly the process of the Alpha Group itself, please do reach out to us. Payal from our team is our single point of contact to address any queries and put you in touch with Sandeep and Colin as required. If there are questions they need to address, we'll handhold and facilitate the process of anyone who's in. I hope this has been a really constructive and engaging session for all of you. Thanks very much, Sandeep and Colin. Despite some of the challenges in between, you'll have, as Colin said, he's always come back. Thanks for that and sharing those war stories. I think the first part of the session gave great insight into just the thinking and uniqueness of the SME business owners and about engaging with them. And thanks also to Murli, Joydeep, and the rest of our group, which I'm sure also has very, very deep insights about this and interest. So I also believe that this whole model of peer-to-peer executive boards to bring about the value that Colin talked about could be very, very impactful, especially in a country like India. There's immense potential. I'm sure there would be some interest from folks, as I mentioned earlier. Do reach out to Payal. Those who would like to know more about this, we will connect you to Sandeep and Colin, and if there's interest, help you take the process forward, of course. With that, I'd like to thank all of you for being a very engaged audience through this session. This is just the first of our series, Beyond Work. Please do reach out with feedback about the themes that you might like to hear about the format. We have tried this fireside chat. We might experiment with other ways to make it impactful and interesting for all of you. Look forward to all your active engagement. Thank you very much and have a great day.